Hello students, in the previous class you learned in detail about material cost variance and also previous question. In today's class we will learn about labor cost variance. Like material cost, here also we have two factors. Which are those factors? So in material the two factors were quantity and you had price. Raw material quantity and raw material price. Similarly in labor you will have equivalent. So in place of quantity you will have hours. In place of price you will have rate. So this is the per hour rate, and hours is actually how many hours they worked or they were paid. So the topmost variance is the overall labor cost variance. This is nothing but your standard cost minus actual cost. So standard is given by standard hour, standard rate, and actual hour is given by actual hour, actual rate. The labor cost variance, like this factor, can be because of differences in hours or differences in also rate. If you look at the formula, if you know material cost variance properly, 60 to 70% of labor cost variance formula you can remember. But one change here is idle time variance. There is no concept called as idle material. Whether you consume it or you don't consume it, there is no cost to that. But when in the labor, if there is an idle time, I'm not getting in any output, but there is a cost to me because I am paying that labor. So hence this additional sixth variance will come in labor cost variance called idle time variance. So labor cost variance is broadly divided into two variances, sub variances, which are labor rate variance, okay, on the right hand side, and labor efficiency variance. So rate variance is because I was supposed to pay him X rupee, I'm paying him Y rupee. So who's responsible for this? The personnel department or HR department. And the formula for this is actual hour in standard rate minus actual hour into actual rate. So if you simplify this equation, the variance is because of rate. That means standard rate minus actual rate. This is the difference multiplied by actual hours. So that's how you remember. In the bracket, you are getting the difference because of rate, that is SR minus AR, multiplied by actual hours. On the other side, left hand side, labor efficiency variance. So whenever there is an efficiency, it is with respect to the number of hours. So same, I will have to multiply standard rate with standard hours minus actual hours worked. So this is the difference. Here you have a concept of actual hours and actual hours worked. In material, this was not there. Just because idle time is here, I am introducing a new factor, actual hours worked. How to find out actual hours worked? Actual hours worked is equal to actual hours minus idle time. So let's say I'm paying 40 hours, but on that 2 hours there was idle. So that means my actual hours worked will be 38. Okay. Then labor efficiencies variance is made up of two sub variances. Again, labor yield variance and labor mix variance. So these formulas are again applicable only when more than two types of labors are involved. What are these two types of labor? So this can be men, women, or skilled, semi-skilled, and unskilled. So these are different type of labor and their rates are different. So only when they are involved, you have two more subvariances, yield and mix. So for this you have to calculate something called as revised standard hours, which is similar to what you learned in the previous class for material cost variance. We will understand this with one problem. So calculate labor variance from the following data. So in the exam, if you get something like this standard and actual, it's very good. It's very easy to take the detail and put it in the table. So standard number in the gang 80 men and 40 women. See, that means there are more than one type of labor. This is a 5 variance, in fact 6 variance problem if idle time is involved. Then wage rate per hour, 45 for man, 40 for women. What is this? This is standard rate. So I will take this value in the standard rate column. 45, 40. Output per gang hour 50 units. So I will use this. I will require this to arrive at the standard hours. Gang hours in a 5-day week is 40. Then actual data. Number in the gang 64 men and 56 women. Wage rate per hour 50 for man, 25 for woman. This is my actual rate. So 50 and 25. Next. Actual gang hours paid for 40. Actual gang hours worked 39. So nowhere they are telling there is an idle time here. But the moment they give these two kind of data, the difference is going to be your idle time, which is equal to 1 hour. Then actual output is 2400 units. Now let's come to the data table. So standard rate and actual rate were easy to pick up from the question. Directly we have picked it up. If you compare this with material cost table, data table, in place of standard hour, you had standard quantity. In place of standard rate, you had standard price. Similarly, actual quantity, actual price, and revised standard quantity. So that means there are two more columns which are extra. One is the actual hours worked and next is the idle time. So I will start with one which is easy. Okay. So idle time, this is nothing but how many people were there multiplied by how many hours were there. So men, actual men were 64. So that means my actual idle time is 64 for men and 56 for women. I have to calculate actual hours and standard hours. So to do this, I have to look at the output. How much output was produced? Typically, there was 2400 units were produced. But what is the standard? As per the standard, so gang hours in a 5-day week is 40 and 40 they will produce per hour 50 units. So these two are my standard data. This will help me to calculate what is my standard hour. So for standard hour for the actual quantity, now 2400 units were produced. That means per hour I produce 50 units. So how many hours are there? I will get it as 2400 divided by 50. So many standard hours were there. So 2400 divided by 50 will give me 48 hours. Now there were 48 standard hours. I know number of men, standard men. So 80 men, 80 into 48. So 80 into 48 for men, that is the standard hour. So 3840. Similarly for women, it is 40 into 48. So 1920. Now I will go to actual hours. Actual hours is given here, which is 40. Actual gang hours paid for is 40. Similarly, 40 into 64 I have to take for men. So actual hours 40 into 68. And for women, 40 into 56. I will get 2000. 40 into 64. 40 into 64, 2560. Then 40 into 56. I will get 2240. Actual hours worked. Now I have to calculate this. This is nothing but AH minus idle time. So 2560 minus 64. I will get 2496. And 2240 minus 56. 2184. So now I have to calculate what is the revised standard hour. For this, I have to first total my standard hours. I need the total. So standard hour total is 5760. Then I need actual hours worked total, which is 4680. So my revised standard hour for men is going to be 4680 into 3840 divided by 5760. So which all I'm taking this total and distributing it in the standard ratio of men. I will get it as 3120. Similarly, for revised standard quantity, sorry, this is not quantity, this is revised standard hours for women. Actual hours work total 4680 into, for women 1920 is the standard hour divided by standard hours total 1560. This also is 4680. It has to be same. Once I have filled the data table, half of my work is over. Next, I'll go to my factor table. So in the factor table, it is similar to my material cost variance. First one is similar. Then second one is same. Third one and fourth one, I have two new things introduced. Last one is same. So here, in the material cost variance, I had actual quantity and standard price. Only one. Since we have actual hours and actual hours work, I have two factors here. One is AHSR, second one is AHWSR. So next step, I multiply these factors. SHSR. So men SHSR 3840 into 45 M plus 1920 into 40 M plus then memory recall. So 172,800, 76800, 249600. Similarly, I will calculate next RSHSR. That means my last column, last but one column, RSHSR. 3120 into 45 memory plus 1560 into 40 memory plus memory recall. 140,400, 62,400, 202800. So like this, please calculate for all others. Then I will display the results in a while. Okay, so these are the values of the factor. Now, similar to material cost variance, I have to take the difference between different column. So this is my 1, this is 2, 3, 4, sorry, this is, I'll call it as 3A, and this is 3B, and 4. If you remember the material cost differences, labor cost differences, almost same, except for 1 or 2. So first one is labor cost variance is given by standard cost minus actual cost, which is 1 minus 4. 249,600 minus 184. So that will give me a value of 65,600. Next, labor rate variance. So difference in the rate multiplied by actual hour. From the table, it is 3A minus 4. So I will get 2,800. Third one is labor efficiency variance. Whenever there is efficiency in the actual hours, you have to take actual hours worked. So this is true for your variable overhead and fixed overhead also. So wherever there are efficiency variances, in the hours, I will ignore the idle part. I will take the actual hours worked. So from the table, it is 1 minus 3B. This I will get 49,920. Now, in material cost variance, we were reconciling here at this part. Okay. But let us look at the chart here. So in the chart, now we have calculated this, then we have calculated this. Now it will not reconcile unless I add idle time variance. So in this problem, we have idle time. How to calculate idle time variance? Idle time multiplied by standard rate. So idle time rate variance will be 64 into 45. So I'll write it as idle time variance 65 into 45 memory plus 2925. Next 56 into 40 2240. So 64. So I have to take 64, right? 64 into 45. 64 into 45. 2,880. So total it 5,120. So this is always minus. Idle time is always minus. So idle time variance now I will take it as 5120. Now if I reconcile, I should get my total cost variance. So 2800 plus 49,920 minus 5120. I'm getting 65,600. Next part, labor yield variance is 1 minus 2. So in material yield variance also it was 1 minus 2. No change. So 1 minus 2, 249,600 minus 202,800. 46,800. In the labor mix variance, I have to take 2 minus 3B. So this is AHW. So 2 minus 3B. 202,800 minus 199,680. 3120. Now I have to reconcile it again here. These two subvariants total should give me efficiency variance. So 46,800 plus 3120 is 49920. So that means this is reconciled. Total is reconciled. That means all my variances are correct. So let's go back, understand once again. So from the data, take the standard rate and actual rate first. Then you have to calculate the standard hours for the actual output. So for 2400 units, how many actual standard hours were required? 48 were required. I will multiply this with 80 men and 40 women. Now I will get standard hours. Actual hours, 40 hours were paid. This I will multiply with 64 into 40 and 56 into 40. Now I will get actual hours. Actual gang hours worked is only 39. So 1 hour is the idle time. So 1 into 64 men, 1 into 56 women, I get both idle time. Actual hour worked is actual hour minus idle time. So that I have got. Once I get it, next is I will prepare the factor table. Factor table you have to remember. So column number 1, 2 and 4, they are similar to material cost variance. Easy to remember. So in 3, there are 2. One is actual hour and one is actual hour worked. Except for the last one where you have actual rate. In all cases, you have standard rate. So it is not confusing. Then we will calculate variance using the formula. So these formula you will have to remember in the examination. Thank you for watching. That's it for today. In the next class, we will do variable overhead cost variance.